Hi guys, my name is Lisa Whitehouse and I'm the artist behind Whitehouse Art. Thank you for joining me today for one of my mini tutorials. Be sure to hit subscribe if you want to see other videos like this one. Let's get started. Well, I hope you're feeling hungry because for today's picture we're going to be painting a donut, a pink donut to be exact. So first things first, we are going to start out by drawing the donut. So this is a pretty straightforward drawing. You're going to draw a circle about halfway up the page, a little more than halfway. And draw it quite light, and it doesn't have to be perfect. No donut is absolutely perfect and round. So this is where it pays to not be good at drawing round circles, like myself. So I've drawn just a loose outline. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do the center. So the center of the donut's usually quite small. And then we got to draw the icing on here. So the icing, what you'll notice with donuts is they tend to have little slivers of the dough showing underneath. So this is where we're going to have just little bits showing. And this is going to show us that it's a donut. And same with on the inside. We'll have a little bit there and a little bit there. So that's all we're doing for the first line drawing. I did mine a little darker. I recommend you keep it as light as possible, but I kept it a little dark just for the sake of showing you guys on the video. So we're only going to go with a couple of colors for this donut. We're going to have a nice bright pink as well as a yellow ochre. So it's pretty simple, it's pretty straightforward. It's just a matter of using stronger amounts of that color to draw the donut. So first things first, we're going to add clear water throughout the entire donut. So with wet in wet technique, which is what I'm known for, I like to use clear water throughout the whole thing. And this allows me to have the paint bleed. Now we're not doing this painting too loose. We're going to keep it a little bit more simple. And it's going to look absolutely adorable on your kitchen wall, in a bakery, even in your kids' room, because who doesn't love donuts? So that's pretty much it, just clear water all over. And don't worry about being too exact. If you've missed some spots, you'll notice as the pink starts to spread around, but you do need to move fairly quickly. So it's important that you get that pink down right away. So we're gonna start by doing the pink right around here. And you'll notice the pink I'm using is fairly strong, so we're gonna help move it around a little bit by moving the page. Now, depending on the type of paper you're using, the pink will either bleed more or won't. But don't worry if there's white spots showing through. Don't sweat it too much. We're going to actually add some white spots to show where the icing is glistening a little bit. It's nice shiny icing. You see I'm keeping it fairly loose. I'm not worrying about filling in every single spot. But I do move fairly quickly when the water is wet because as it dries, it's not going to bleed quite as much. So this is the part where I'm at right now is where I want to add those shines that I was talking about. So this is where I take a clean paper towel. I'm going to pick some water off the page just to make sure that it doesn't bleed into this spot right here or this spot right here. I'm going to add two shines. And then I can go back to playing around with the pinks. And it's not going to fill in those areas where I made sure to dab up. Now some areas I want to be a little bit darker. We're going to make it a little bit darker right here. And we're going to make it a little bit darker right here. I don't know why, that's just where I've decided that we've got a little bit more shadowing on the icing. And then I'm going to follow the perimeter a little bit loosely with a little dark pink too. Adding a little more there. I just want to keep it nice and dark around the center. And then my favorite part of working with watercolor is letting it drip. So in this case, we're not going to want it to drip all the way down the page. We're going to let it only drip a little bit of the way. So we're going to make sure there's a nice amount of water here. And then we're going to allow the water to drip as we want. I don't like uneven numbers, so I'm going to tell the water where to drip. Sometimes I let it do its own thing, and sometimes I tell it what to do. So in that case, that's all we want to do. So now what I'm gonna do is take a flat brush and I'm gonna put some droplets around it. So these droplets are actually going on the donut, but we're gonna do a few off the donut too. Not too many. Most of these are just gonna bleed in. That's no big deal. Just adding a bit of clear water droplets over top to make them a little bit uneven. And then I'm gonna go ahead and dab up some of them because I have way too many. I find there's a lot of control in using a paper towel. You get to decide how many you want, how loose you want it to be. So that's all we're doing for the first layer. Now we're gonna let it dry completely, and then we're gonna go back in and do the yellow ochre in all those places where we're missing icing. So I'll see you in a few minutes. So now that our first coat on the donut is all dry, and we're gonna see a lot of that blossoming happening with the watercolors. That's what I love so much about watercolors, is it'll have these little effects that happen as it dries, and I think it looks so wonderful. So what we're gonna do next is do the dough on the donut. And so that is pretty straightforward. All you're going to be doing is taking a little bit of clear water, just like before, and we're gonna fill in these little spots because we're wanting to look round underneath. While the icing isn't perfect, the donut itself has a bit more of a round shape. So we're adding that back in all of these areas. So clear water, and then I take a little bit of yellow ochre, and I just define where it begins and ends. Because we're not going to be outlining this donut, we need to make sure that you can sort of see a strong line where the yellow ochre begins and ends on the painting, if that makes sense. Because I'm not going to be going in with a black line after. So I like to almost let the yellow ochre as the outline and then fill in towards the center. Noticing that the pink did dry quite a bit lighter, so I may end up going in and adding more pink after, but we're going to see how this looks when it dries. With watercolor, it's nice to stand back and continue to look at it as it's drying so that you never add too much. Although even doing that, sometimes I can go a little too crazy. That's okay. As I say in all my videos with watercolor, it's important to just have fun, make mistakes, learn from them, start again. It's a fairly quick medium, so if you make a mistake, you can always start again. You'll notice you can see some pencil lines underneath. That's totally okay. With watercolor, you can erase the pencil after the fact, so once it's 100% dry, you can go in and erase that pencil through the watercolor. Unless you've gone really dark, most pencil can be erased. I'm just continuing to darken it a bit as it dries. So that's all we want to do there. Now, because I noticed that the pink did dry quite a bit lighter, I actually want to go in and add a little bit more pink in certain areas. Not throughout the whole thing, but just the areas where I feel like it should be a little bit darker. And so I'm being careful not to touch the donut itself, the doughy part, because the yellow would then bleed into the pink. So if you look at it at an angle, you can see where's wet and where's not. So I'm just going back over the pink. I'm just going to add a little bit more in certain spots. Not a lot, nothing too drastic. The reason I wet the whole thing all over again is because it helps us stop getting some of those harsh lines. Helps stop some of those harsh lines. So here I really love this, but I am going to cover it up and do it a little bit darker because I'm noticing those drips just lightened quite a bit. So what I want to do is actually artificially darken them a little bit. And when I say artificially, because I'm not actually letting it drip, I'm just redefining them a little bit where they did already drip. That's all. That's all I want to do. glaze marks that I had from before. Now what I want to do is add a bit more splatters over top on this final layer. So some of them you'll be able to see, and some will bleed right in. And the reason for that is some is wet and some is not. So I kind of like that look. As it dries, some will disappear. So I'm noticing some of that pink is bleeding in here, so we're going to go ahead and lift that out. No big deal. And that's pretty much all you want to do for this little guy. Just a simple donut. Sign it at the end. I'm going to use pink to sign it. This is a good practice piece if you want to get into doing some more detailed paintings. If you go on my website, www.whitehouseart.ca, you'll see I painted a vanilla dip donut. And if you guys are interested, I can walk you through how to do that. It involves masking fluid, a bit more time, a bit more patience. But paintings like that can be a lot of fun to do. Once this painting is 100% dry, I'm going to go in and erase some of those pieces, but that's pretty much all that's left. So I hope you enjoyed painting this donut with me. Thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you guys had fun. Be sure to check out my other videos for more inspiration and leave a comment below with some ideas that you want to paint. Thank you and see you next video.